Everybody, this webinar is all about running comps and comping properties. Guys and girls, if you want to be a successful real estate investor or a wholesaler or anything to do with real estate investing in general, maybe even just being an agent, you are going to need to understand comping and you need to know what it is and how to do it. So, if you are watching here today, let me know that you can hear me. I'm going to go ahead and just get started. I've troubleshot this a few times and I think I got this running the way that I like and the way that I want. But if you're watching me here on Facebook or YouTube, let me know that you can hear me and you can see me. Again, today it's all about running comps and running comps 101. So I'm going to keep this free presentation short today. And before I do, I want to pull one more thing up. There we go. We're rocking. Okay. So let's go ahead and begin, guys and girls. Running comps 101. That's what this is all about. And again, in order to be a successful real estate investor, wholesaler, landlord, you need to know how to comp properties. And when it comes to comping properties, there's a couple things that we definitely want to keep in mind as we are comping properties. So, first and foremost, let's start off with what are comps, right? What are they? Like, that's the first thing we need to know and understand. Well, comps are comparable sold properties. And some people might even want to look at, active properties or even pending properties to kind of get an understanding of what's happening in the market. And that's good and all. But when I'm using comps and when my appraisers that are appraising my properties are looking at comps, they are looking specifically at the sold comps. And when I'm trying to determine what the value of a property is, I'm also looking at the sold comps. So really the sold comps or the sold comparables, other properties that have sold recently in the area are going to make up your sold comparables. And comps is just an abbreviation for comparables. It's very, very simple. So when we run comps to determine what the ARV or the after repair value of a property is, we do so by looking at the recently sold properties. That's it. It's so straightforward. Do not overthink it. We then use those comparable solds to determine what our subject property might sell for. So essentially what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going and we're going to be looking at what other properties in the area have sold for recently, and that's going to give us an idea of what our subject property will be worth after the repairs. Now, here's the catch. Sometimes we may be looking at comps or comparable sold properties for properties that haven't been repaired. So we can actually look at as-is comps, and then we can also look at the after repair value comps or of properties that are recently built or recently rehabbed solds to determine the as-is comps versus the ARV comps. These are going to be two different things, but we're definitely just going to want to keep this in mind. But again, for today's presentation, we're going to keep it simple. We're not going to overthink it. We're going to make sure that we are just keeping it simple today. So don't worry about it. Okay, so what are we going to be looking for? I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so it's going to be a little bit easier to see. And I can move my head to the side here. What we are looking for when we are running comps is we really need to focus on the following three items. Now, there's other things that we want to keep in mind, but these three items are going to definitely be the most important. Number one is going to be your proximity. And in fact, I could probably make this a little bit bigger. There we go. There we go. Number one is proximity. The closer to the subject property, the better. So keep in mind, right? Major highways, school districts, neighborhoods. These are going to be things that are going to affect your property and the values, right? So proximity is massive. Proximity is really just distance, right? How close to the subject property. Now, typically speaking, we're going to want to start small with our proximity. We're going to be looking at a quarter mile, maybe a half a mile. If we have to go beyond a half a mile to 3/4 of a mile or even farther, that may be okay out in the country, right? That may be okay in areas where the population isn't densely packed. But if we are in a city and there are a lot of properties in our vicinity, proximity really matters, all right? We can't comp properties or find, comparable sold comparables across town. We're really looking for properties that have sold recently right on that street or right in that neighborhood. So keep in mind that proximity really, really matters. Next is time or duration, okay? Ideally, we're going to be looking at sold properties that have sold within 6 months. Maybe we'll go as far out as 12 months, right? But again, the closer the better, and the more recent the better. So not only are we going to be looking at this data, but other investors are going to be looking at this, and so are the appraisers. At the end of the day, it's what the appraisers are going to think of the comps is really the most important thing, because they're going to be the individuals that are working for the banks to determine what the value is. So the lenders, the borrowers, I should say, when they're contacting their lenders, they can go about getting a loan to purchase these properties. I can't tell you how many times I have sold a property to somebody with a loan. Almost every single time, right? Most people don't buy properties with cash unless they are investors. And then even at that, they're not typically paying full retail anyway. So most of the time matters, folks. 6 months is ideal. A quarter mile is ideal. But in the event that you can't find anything in 6 months, then you can take it to 12 months. And in the event that you can't find a decent amount of comparable sold properties in a quarter mile, then again, you can take it out to a half a mile. But proximity and time are going to be the two most important things when it comes to determining your comps or finding your comparable sold properties. Now, the third thing that's also equally important is the type of property, right? So we should be comping a ranch house to another ranch home, right? A 2-story home to another 2-story home. It's not going to make for a very good comparables. If we have a ranch home and the only sold comps that we can find, recently in the area, are going to be 2- and 3-story homes. Those are not the same type of home. So when I say type of home, I'm really looking for the same type of home in terms of the number of floors. I'm looking for, properties that were built within the same time frame. I'm also looking for similar square foot, right? All of these things fall under type. So, if I have an 800 square foot, that's small, an 800 square foot home, it's probably 2 beds. I can't go look at, 4 and 5 and 6 bedroom houses that are 2 and 3 and 4,000 square foot to use as comparable sold properties, to my subject property. I want to find properties that are very, very, very close in size and similar number of bedrooms and bathrooms, also built within the same time frame. Now, not to be the same year, but you don't necessarily comp a property that's built in 1890 to a property that's built in 1990. Those are two different ballparks, right? So ideally within 10 to 15 years of the build. And then again, guys, time and proximity, right? So duration and proximity is another way to word that. My ideal way to comp, and I'm going to show you some examples of comping some properties here in a second, but my ideal way to comp is to start small in terms of the proximity, and it's to only go back about 6 months, which is very recent. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for similar type properties. And if I can't find what I'm looking for with, 6 months and a quarter mile, then of course I can take out my time to maybe 12 months, and I can take my quarter mile out to, let's say, half a mile. Beyond that, I really want to just start looking extra carefully, and I don't want to get too far away. I don't want to get too distant in the past. 18 months, 24 months, that's not going to make for very, very good properties. So again, just keep these 3 things in mind. Proximity, time or duration, and type are going to be very, very, very important. All right, today I am going to be using batch leads to demonstrate some comping of properties. And guys and girls, if you're not using batch leads, I highly recommend it. It's my favorite real estate investing software. Use batchleads.io/Dave or use code Dave to get a free trial of this software. It is amazing. I've been using Batch Leads for probably about 3 years now, and it is a phenomenal comping software. Has a ton of other resources. So again, use code DAVE or batchleads.io/Dave. You're going to be able to get a 7-day free trial. They're also going to give you 1,000 buyer or seller leads for free included in that free trial. All right, let's go ahead and log in. And I want to show you guys some examples of what it looks like to comp properties. And I'm just going to comp some properties similar to some of my rental properties, somewhere in the area, to give you all an example of what that looks like. All right, logging in now. Here we go. So in order to comp, you're going to click on this property search tool. And then from there, you can search different types of properties. So here's an actual duplex that I own. It's down in South City, St. Louis, Missouri. And you can see here that this is a 4-bedroom, 1-bath, number of units is 2. So it's a duplex. So again, when I'm comping, and I can click right here on the comparables area to pull up a map and to see some of the recently sold properties. I'll notice that there's some green and yellow on here, and I can go over here and I can actually turn off those green and yellow. So I'm just now looking at my sold comps. Batch Leads makes comping incredibly easy. I love it. All right, you can even sort by the property class and the property type. It's already defaulted to residential duplex, and that's one of the reasons why I really love this software, is because it does a lot of the work for you, which is really, really nice. So I'm going to look at my solds. I'm going to actually start within 6 months. We can do built within 10 years. And then I'm going to take my located within 1 mile down to 1/4 mile, because again, I want to keep it tight. I want to keep the duration, I want to keep the duration recent, very, very recent if possible. And I want to keep the distance as well very, very tight. The tighter the better. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click filter. So within the last, and actually right now I'm going to take the built within 10 years off, only because South City is going to give me a lot of different types of properties. Okay, so I have 6 months, I have 1/4 mile, and I'm not getting any comps. That's okay. Start small, because in some areas you might get a ton of comps. And the next one I'm going to show you all is going to be a single family home, and it's going to be a little different. But in this case, we have 1/4 mile and we have 6 months. So I wasn't able to find anything within that duration, so I'm going to take it out to 12 months. And notice that when I take it out to 12 months, I now have 1, 2, 3 comps that you can see. And look at this, they're all on Dover. And I'm telling you, if you can find properties that are on the same street or in the same neighborhood, they're going to make much, much, much better comps or comparables for you to judge your values on than if they are across a major highway or, way across town or in a different school district. All of these things matter. So the more likeness, the close, the most recent, these are going to make for better opportunities to go about comping properties. Okay, so in this case, you can see that we have different price points: 208, 244, 265, and 173. And again, these are all duplexes. So one thing that I could do here is I could look at the year built. And these are all built a long time ago: 1922, 1916, 1915, 1911, 1921. So all of those are very similar in terms of the duration here. So that's something to definitely keep in mind. So this right here helps with comps so much. Now, if I really like this comp and this comp and this comp, say I like these top 3 comps, but I don't like that low comp at the bottom, I can select the thumbs up over here on Batch Leads, and it's actually going to give me an estimated value of the property, as well as the average dollar per foot and the average price, which is amazing. Okay, you can also use the algorithm at the top here, the estimated value algorithm, to determine what Batch might think this property is worth. So that's it. It's so incredibly simple. The algorithm's showing 280. My actual 3 solds are averaged out about 239. So I would basically say, hey, this property is going to be worth somewhere between 240 and 280, depending on the comps, right? It's very, very simple. So now let's say that I wanted to go look at a different set of comps, and I wanted to go look at, let's do this one here in Hazelwood, 498 Coach Light Lane. And if I want to look at the comps on this was one that was sent to me last week by somebody trying to sell it. I could look at these comps. Again, I'm going to take off my pendings and my actives. Property is going to default to residential. And then, of course, single family, because this is a single family property. Now, if I want to zoom in on this, you can see I have 5 different pages of comps here. But that's probably because I'm looking at 12 months and I'm looking at a mile. Again, you want to make sure that you start these properties within a very small radius and a small time frame. You can even take it down to 3 months if you want. But I'm going to use 6 months. I'm going to use a quarter mile. Let's go ahead and filter those in. It's going to take you down from 5 pages of comps down to just 1 comp. And this comp is going to be also in Hazelwood, but 1 comp's not typically going to be enough. I didn't mention that earlier. Typically, when we're comping properties, we're going to want to see at least 2 or 3 good nearby, similar type properties. Ideally, we're going to want to see 4 or 5 or 6. We don't necessarily need 10 or 20, right? But ideally, we're going to want to be able to see at least 3 or 4 really, really similar, close, nearby, and recent comps to make sure that that our subject property has the comparables, right? The sold comps. So let's go back and take a look at this one again here. And what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to take it, let's see, 6 months, and we have a quarter mile. Let's take this out to a half a mile, but keep it at 6 months. So you'll notice here that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 7 comps on here. But the comps that are going to be the closest to my particular property are going to be the ones that are going to be valued the highest, in my opinion. So we have a 216 way up here at top. We have a 110, a 200, a 260, a 239, a 126, and a 150. So because we have these 2 smaller comps over here, that's not really helping my value right there. Now, if I want to scroll up to the top, I can see I do have an estimated value of 226. So I may want to take out some of these, lower end ones like these 3, and I may want to add in these higher end ones like these 4, because these higher end ones might make more sense as the ARV comps, whereas these lower end ones probably make more sense as my as-is property comps. And again, there's a difference between properties that haven't been updated, they haven't had any work done, they may have old roofs and old kitchens and old HVACs. So they're going to obviously have different comps. So you can see here, if I average 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of my higher end comps, and in fact, I even have one that's it's a 110 here. My estimated value is $236,000. And if you look up here, the estimated value that Batch is going to give me, which I love this software because it helps and it gives you a lot of the information, is 226. So I would, be pretty. It would be pretty easy to say that this property is going to be worth somewhere between 220 and 235, just based on the estimated value and some of the comps. Now, notice at the bottom left here, I do have 3 different comps that are going to be more of my as-is numbers. And let me move my face over here. You can see these 3 at the bottom, 110, 126, and 150, are really going to make more sense as the as-is comps. And it's also going to give me some insight into what some of the other investors in the area are probably paying for properties. And that's really one of the great tools here, is not only to be able to run comps and see what my subject property or your subject property is going to be worth in the end, but it's also going to give me some insight into the market and to see what other investors are buying for those as-is properties. It's such an amazing tool. So guys and girls, we're hit the 20-minute mark. I want to keep these free trainings short and sweet. And when it comes to comping, there's really not that much to it. Just remember, Comps is basically an abbreviation for comparables. Right? We are trying to find sold comparable properties that have sold recently in a very close or near proximity. And then last but not least, are very similar in type and size and likeness, right? You don't want to comp a 3-story to a single family ranch. You don't want to try to comp a 2-family or a 4-family to a single family ranch. You want to comp ranches to ranches and duplexes to duplexes. Also keep in mind that if you do have comps that go over major highways or major intersections, that you are going to, discount those comps or maybe even remove them altogether if they are not within the same neighborhood. The best type of comps is going to be the same type of house built very recently to your subject property on the street, next door, across the street, right down the way. Very, very similar, very, very close. The farther away you get both in time and distance, the less likely those comps are going to have value to you. So definitely keep those things in mind. Guys and girls, I definitely want to highlight Batch Leads is my favorite software for running comps and to determining what properties are worth. I love using the algorithm. I love using this software to pull seller leads. I can even use this software to see what other buyers are buying and pull buyers' information. So I highly recommend you guys check out Batch Leads. There's going to be a free trial offer below this video. I'll drop a link as soon as I wrap this video up. And or go to batchleads.io and then use code DAVE. And that's going to give you those 1,000 free buyer or seller leads. Last but not least, I want to mention the community. The community is our newest coaching offering. We are given access to 10 courses. This offering is amazing. Okay, right now we're even giving away a 7-day free trial. And then beyond that, it's $99 a month. You get multiple weekly group coaching calls. You get access to a private members-only community. And then, of course, you get access to 10 REI courses. You guys do not want to miss this opportunity. This free trial will not last. And this is the best coaching offering that we've ever had, ever to date. And the reason is I just want to help more people. I love helping people get their first deal. I love helping individuals learn how they can start wholesaling properties with little to none of their own money. I love teaching people how to acquire rental properties with little to no money using creative financing or maybe even more advanced strategies like the BRRRR method. All of these things are very, very possible, and I love helping people. I love teaching these things. So guys, check out Batch Leads, check out the community. Below this video, I'm going to post some links here in just a moment. I appreciate you all attending today, and with that, I'm signing off.